redevelopment meeting for, oh my goodness, what's the date?
May 27th.
May 27th. Can I get let's do a roll call.
Sure.
Mr. Bissing.
Here.
Mr. Owen.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
And I am here. That makes everybody. Could I get approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
And going back to roll call, is Teresa Perkins on?
She was earlier, I think.
I don't see her on the list.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I heard her voice, but I don't see her on the screen anymore. She must have dropped. Okay, well, she picks back up. All right, so back to approval of the agenda. Did I have a motion?
I made the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Of course, we have to do everything with roll call vote. I'll try to stay in the same order every time so I don't surprise you. Mr. Bissing.
Yes.
Mr. Owen.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
And that's a yes for me. So that would be 5-0. Approval of the minutes. I'm sorry.
Scott, was that second, was the motion the second by Mr. Avery? Or
I
Mr. Bissing?
seconded it, but I didn't. Someone else did.
Who's seconding the agenda?
I did. Matt.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Matt. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And now we have approval of the minutes for April 29th.
So moved.
Second.
And who gave the original motion?
Jack.
Okay, Mr. Bissing, second by Mr. Moore. And again, roll call vote. How do you vote, Mr. Bissing?
Yes.
Mr. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
And that's a yes for me. So minutes are approved unanimously. And now moving on to the review of the financial information. Heather Metcalf with TIF Claims.
One thing on the minutes I've noticed, and I don't know if this has been in the past, the minutes are not reflecting a roll call vote. So we need to make sure that the minutes reflect the roll call vote. It's just saying a motion second and then passing unanimously. Just make sure we have in there the roll call vote on all these.
Okay. Yeah, I have motion passing with 5-0, but it needs to list the names.
Just say that there was, if it's unanimous, that's fine. Just put in there that it was a roll call vote, just for the record that everybody knows it was a roll call vote.
All right.
All righty. Heather, you there?
I am, yes.
Okay, tell us about TIF Claims.
We have TIF claims tonight for $862,931.61.
Did anybody have any questions or concerns?
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jorge. Can I ask a question? I know I'm not on the board. The railroad was supposed to submit their claims for the railroad crossings there on the gateway. Teresa, did you get those?
There was one for, I believe it was 40,000.
Oh, no, these were big claims. Claims for all the work and the material. If they sent everything from Anacostia, maybe from Chicago.
No, I'm pretty sure it was I just received one for 40,000.
I sit here.
No, 30,000. Louisville, Indiana Railroad for 30,000.
Right.
Okay, maybe that was a down payment. I thought they were billing for the entire million something.
Okay, yes, nothing that large.
All right, sorry.
No worries. If nobody else had any questions, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
By Mr. Owen, do I got a second?
Second.
Second, was that you, Durard, or Jack?
I think it's Jack.
Okay. A motion in a second, and we got roll call vote. Mr. Bissing,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
and that's a yes for me. So 5-0. And now Heather, what about operational claims?
That is $11,876.54.
So moved.
Mr. Owen with the motion. Who wants to second?
I'll make a second.
That's Mr. Moore. Motion and a second. So
Wait a minute. Who was that?
what, wasn't it Mr. Moore?
It looked like somebody with a black scarf, the cartoon character there. It's like, I think I got a couple of those roaming around here too. It's like,
Oh, my God.
yeah.
All right. So Teresa, you got it straight?
Yes,
You ready for a vote? Okay.
yes.
Mr. Bissing, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
and that's a yes from me. So that's everybody, Teresa.
Thank you.
And you bet. And thank you, Heather. And now we got Jacoby Toombs and Lance report.
Thank you, Scott. As you can see, you guys can see from our report, I've made it a lot more concise for stuff that was way in the past to make the report shorter. On Veterans Parkway, that's Holman's Lane. The contractor's making good progress. Since the restart date of March the 2nd, there's been 26 weather delay days. That's substantial. Well, you know, it's tough to move dirt when it's raining like crazy, Jack.
You're right.
So I mean, we're still hopeful to wrapping up that project here midsummer or so. And stop me if anybody has any questions, okay? The gateway development, the railroad crossings are to be installed here. I got a call today from James Connolly of the railroad. I couldn't take the call. I called him back and I haven't heard back from him. But we need a detour route because they're gonna close Spring Street for one day. So that crossing will be replaced from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The street will be shut down. I'm working that through Andy, the city engineer, to put up the signs and stuff and announce it, you know, in the paper that that street will be closed on a given day. We're still coordinating with Duke for some limited street lighting. The project originally didn't include street lighting because we were trying to work it out with the developer of where the lighting was going to be. So that's still underway. On the Godbrath Parkway, the only thing we've got, they've repaved and restriped to fit our demands and the city's demands, I believe. The only thing left on that project is the executed agreement for the lighting of Duke. And Mr. Ways was very wise to not pay for that cash up front because that money, we actually are using it somewhere else. So, but that's still pending on whether we're going to go the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year contract. I'm just reminding, and I'll remind Robin, we'll work it out. On the 8th and Ohio drainage project, as you guys may or may not know, we've bid and awarded the CSO Interceptor Phase 2 project, which is the big pipe that the sewer utility is putting in conjunction with all this EPA work. And also we're putting a drainage portion. It's got to be built with this project, and redevelopment or drainage is going to pay for that as part of pre-arrangements. The sewer board approved MAC Construction's contract, and of that contract amount, there's $290,849 that is the drainage component. And I think I would request approval from the redevelopment commission so that project can start and we can get out of the way of the potential hotel that's going to be at that location.
I move to approve it.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for the approval of the portion. That was the 298.49.
290,849. Yes, sir. 290,000.
So now we go to a vote. Mr. Bissing,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
and that's a yes for me. So Teresa, that's 5-0 again.
All right.
And then my last thing I have is that as part of the 8th and Ohio drainage project, we wanted to install the big CSO pipe and the drainage pipe that's gonna drain the underground detention basin, which is the reason why we took out all the buildings that were in the block there, between, Indiana and Ohio and 8th and 9th. So we're ready to go out for bids on that project, and we request your permission to go out for bids. The total budget on that project, including the park that we're planning or we've discussed putting on top of it, the whole thing has got a budget of about $3.8 million. So that's all in Heather's budget that we keep coordinating with Mr. Ways and Heather to make sure that we follow the money. Just as to give you an idea, the total Gateway project, the total investment from redevelopment looks like it's going to be about $9.2 million when it's all said and done.
Yes,
So we
that's
request
correct. It's
permission
all
to
in the
go out for
budget that
bids.
we've been coordinating quite well.
Yes, thank you, Heather. It really helps out to do that.
All right. Well, I heard somebody in there say they needed something. They got a motion?
So moved.
Second.
That's Mr. Owen and Mr. Moore. And for the vote, Mr. Bissing,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
and that's a yes for me. Teresa, that's 5-0.
And last in our report is the Utica-Sellersburg Road, which were construction bids on hold pending funding, and that's a topic of future conversation when we're ready to do that. And that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thanks for having me.
Anybody have any questions for Jorge?
I just have one thing that I've discussed with Jorge a couple of times. It's just on those bids. I just want to look at it before we send it out. And I wanted to put in just some possible alternates in there just in case they come back too high. We can add, delete, whatever else. So just make sure I get with you, Jorge, and we discuss that before it gets sent out.
All right, we'll be ready to do that next week. Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, well, then we'll move on to new business. And Mr. Ways, tell us about the engagement letter.
Les has got this one.
Okay.
Yeah, you did this last year. It's to retain the Wheatley Group for professional services in reference to the TIFs. And I'm trying to get to it. You did this last year, although last year I think we did a little bit later in the year because we were kind of behind schedule. But basically, this is the same arrangement with the Wheatley Group that you did last year in reference to working on the TIFs and sending out those letters.
And Les, this is about the abatement schedule and making sure
Yes.
everybody's on.
Yes.
With
I'll make a motion. I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, you're good. I just,
I'll make a motion to approve unless somebody has any other questions.
No, I just want to make sure because there was some clatter. I want to make sure I understood right. This is for the same scope of work.
Yes, it's the same thing you did last year.
Okay, I just want to make.
It's basically also to make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing as they promised when they applied for the abatements. So,
Gotcha. Okay, I thought I heard a motion. If nobody has any other questions, I'll take a second.
second.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Bissing,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
and that's a yes for me. So 5-0. Thank you, Les and Rob. And now anybody got any questions? Or Rob, do you have anything?
Just a couple of things. As Jorge was discussing about the railroad tracks down along by 9th Street, they were out there working today, pretty much getting things put together for the private crossing. and to talk with Sarah with the animal shelter, and things are progressing really well. She's pretty happy with how the addition and the renovation is coming there. And if you swing by the depot, you'll notice that they're putting in just quite a bit of infrastructure. So it's pretty impressive with what they have putting together. And that's about all I had.
Awesome. All right. Anybody have any? Well, I guess you can do it in your board comments. Board comments, Mr. Bissing.
Well, I think downtown Jeffersonville looks pretty good. People were out moving around, it would be nicer, but yeah, it looks pretty good.
Good. Mr. Owen,
No comment.
Mr. Avery.
Everything looks tremendous. It's very, very impressive, and I hear nothing but good news. It's something else with all the things that are going on, and downtown is just exploding. With those new projects that are coming and all the people that are going to be moving in, it's absolutely awesome.
Good. Mr. Moore.
Just if you didn't get a chance yesterday to go out to Chapel Lake Park, we cut the ribbon unveiling that. That was a redevelopment, was a big part of making that happen. And although we look at that as a park, that facility is going to draw not only new families, but new jobs to the city of Jeff. Improves our quality of life. I think you can get a better family quality of life in Jeffersonville than any other city that I know of. But that ribbon was cut yesterday. Please take the time to get out there and take a look around. 116 acres. It's beautiful. Heard nothing but positive things about it. River Ridge was kind enough to donate a bunch of that land. Dan Christiani and company did a big portion of the work, and AML as well. Colbert Hawkins was the architectural firm. A lot of good local people involved in that project, and I'll give Scott Hawkins another shout out for just his determination to make sure that project took place. Rob, all the work that he did directing redevelopment to get to that point, and the Jeffersonville Parks Authority at the same time. But that's something our great grandchildren are going to be proud of someday. So you guys, thank you for your support of that. And Teresa, if you have an update on Franklin Square Elementary, I'd love to hear anything you may have to offer us.
Sure, I'd be glad to. But before I get to that, one thing I wanted to share with you guys is last night we approved the virtual academy. With the new school year looming on us and lots of people not knowing what they're going to do with their kids or whether or not they're going to feel comfortable to send them back if we have a back. The virtual academy, the school corporations work very hard to put this together, and basically what it'll be is a student can go on there and do a 1 year's work however much they want. It's completely accredited. It is all virtual. It is not e-learning. E-learning is something very different. This is something that the parents will not have to be that much involved in. We still want involvement, but they won't be doing the teaching. And we have a lot more work to do, but that's coming up, and I think that is going to be great for our community. Plus, we can take any students from anywhere in Indiana. So maybe we can grow our population too. Franklin Square, if you've not been by there, it's rocking and rolling. I've already had a few people go down the slide. It's installed, and I tell you, if you go down the slide, you better be ready to, that landing, you got to really get that landing right, or you'll end up on your butt. But it's beautiful inside. We are looking at there's some cracks in the new concrete, but they've been repaired with some sort of magic stuff. I don't know what it is. But as far as anything else that seems to be an issue, there aren't any. They're just like what you guys were talking about downtown Jeff. I think Franklin Commons is going to be a great asset to our downtown. I've already had people contact me, and then I put them through to the right people about enrolling their children. I've got some people that sent their kids to Thomas Jefferson, going to be bringing them to the Academy next year, or the Franklin Square next year. So it's done. Basically, we're going to have an open house in May, but obviously we can't do that right now. But there will be an open house sometime later in the summer, and the signage is all up, the plantings are in, and we've been able to claim and keep some of the historic pieces of the old school, which I know Jack and Deward will be proud of, because we walked those halls, or ran those halls, I'm not sure which. But anyway, it's just coming together. Teachers have been there. They've gotten to see their rooms. Some of them are beginning to move in, and it's starting to look like a real school.
All right, great. Yep. Anything else from anybody? And then, because I just wanted to, I just wanted to kind of reiterate a lot of what Mayor Moore said about the park. We had our unveiling yesterday, and it really it gave me pause, because it is, if you haven't been out there yet, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's really not finished yet. The best parts are really yet to come. But I really got to thinking that there were so many different entities involved with that you wouldn't think that it would ever get done. Anything like that could get finished, because you had parks, the council, this body, and thank you for this body for being a part of it, River Ridge, and then private entities like Dan Christianity all had to come together, and any one of those entities could have screwed this thing up. And that we didn't, and we got it all put together, and it's best for the city. I mean, that is the perfect place for a fantastic park, and it's just another reason why Jeffersonville was recognized as the best place to raise a middle-class family. And if you haven't been out there yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's pretty fantastic. So I just wanted to say thank you to this body for its support and funding for that, because I think it's going to be great for the city of Jeffersonville. And with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is the 24th, and I'm guessing it's going to be like this again. I'm sure we'll be let know if otherwise, but I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'm getting married Tuesday, so if y'all would send your luck my way, I'd appreciate it. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Hey, well then, with all the luck and best wishes for Mr. Moore and his future bride, we will adjourn. See you guys next month.
So long.
I think his future bride needs the good luck.
Teresa.
Motion. Yeah, that's a unanimous vote on that one, Teresa. Yes.
Okay.